Welcome to the Black Magic Woman podcast with Mundanara Bayles.
When you look at our mob, everyone thought we were just going to die out, but we haven't.
Probably the most adaptable people on the planet.
It's this emergence of this humanality again that I find so enriching.
Be wise, be wise, be wise. Look at ways to cost save so that at the end of the day your door's still open.
So welcome to another episode of Black Magic Woman. I'd like to begin by following proper protocol and acknowledge the Gubbi people, the traditional owners of the land where I am today. And I'd also like to acknowledge their elders past and present. Beautiful country where I am here in sunny Queensland. And I just want to say how important it is that as we move around the country, that we're constantly reminding ourselves that we are on somebody else's land. And I know with my guest today, Cherie Johnson, how are you?
Well, thank you, sister.
Well, I was going to say, sis, whose land are you on today?
I'm on the beautiful land of the Awabakal people here in Newcastle. It's been raining. I went bushwalking yesterday and the bush smelt lovely. And today it's a little bit overcast. And, yeah, it's beautiful. We have ocean, we have river, we have stream, we have bush. It's beautiful.
All there in one spot.
Mm-hmm.
So just tell me a little bit about yourself. And especially, when we yarn and we're meeting black fellas around the country, the first thing we say is like, who's your mob?
Yeah, straight up. So my family is all Gamilaroi. I come from a really beautiful, strong line of women, and I'm very appreciative and honoured to be in my family line. My mother is Dawn Conlon, my grandmother is Rachel Darcy, and my great-grandmother is Charlotte Wright. So we have connection with Weilwun people from Macquarie Marshes. My nan was born on the Beamunnel and moved to Sydney after, was removed to Kuta when she was about 14, where our actual your grandmother and my nan's little sister were good mates. I remember that connection. I just remember that connection, yeah. Yep. And then Nan did her apprenticeship, the old domestic apprenticeship on the North Shore, and ended up in Newcastle in the 50s. So we have lived and loved on the Awabakal country for many generations and years now. And, yeah, so this is now home, but we are Gamilaroi people, connection to Weilwun, yeah.
Too deadly, my sister. I love that introduction. Yeah. I love it. And every time we connect, there's something that we're learning about each other. So
exactly, yeah.
You know the rights. Are you talking about like WRIGHT?
Yeah.
Okay, because my little sister Jida grew up in Moree. And
Jida, she's the one who had the baby that we had dinner with that time in Sydney.
That's it. So my little sister's godmother is Tony Wright. And Auntie Tony was my mother's best friend, and basically took Jida in back in the days. Redfern was a pretty, what would you say, a bit of a crazy place to grow up in. And Jida went to Moree and lived with Nen Doherty, the Frenches and the Wrights.
Yeah, right.
So there's another connection there, right? Right, with the rights.
There's
too many connections.
How long's a piece of string?
I know, my sister. Talking to a master weaver here. Not me, you. A woman
There's connections everywhere.
I love it. And I want to, I want people that are listening to this podcast, I want them to know, who is Cherie Johnson?
Yeah, right. You want me to try and answer that? Because which hat do I have on?
And this is the beauty of things, right, sis, in a time like this and what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What's been going on in your world?
Well, there's a lot been going on in my world. There's been a roller coaster of emotions as everybody is experiencing the last couple of weeks. My mother is a huge sci-fi buff, so all I have in my mind are these crazy sci-fi movies where you think it's going to end one way and it's just not. My little baby sister had a baby on Wednesday night, and she was in the room with her husband, and she was kept calling out, who else is here, like her old people were with her. That's really beautiful, because as a family we were kind of in the background, like we couldn't be in the hospital with her because of what's happening, and that was really sad because she's my little sister and this is her first baby.
So, sis, just quickly, with the restrictions around COVID-19, only her husband could be in the labour room.
Yeah, only her husband could be in the labour room, and none of us as family can obviously go and visit. We did FaceTime, but we just haven't even had chance to lay hands on that child.
Oh.
And so from a family perspective, especially being the baby of the family and this is her first, it's a little bit surreal. But baby's healthy. We totally understand. With COVID, we need to stay away. I mean, I'm a single mum with a 9 and 11-year-old. So, and I work in education and I work with a lot of community. And even though we've been in isolation the last week and a half, you just don't know what you're carrying, and you don't want to be, putting mum or baby in any particular situation. So that's just one of the things that's been happening this week. And I actually know in Newcastle three black teens that have had babies this week, so that's interesting. But yeah, so I am. I'm the eldest of 6 siblings, and I'm the only child to the first marriage. So my mum remarried and had 3 children close, and my dad had twins with another lady. So they're ironically those 5 are all within 2 years, 3 years apart from each other. Mm-hmm. But there's 10 years between me and number 2. So I'm definitely a different generation in that sense. I was born a McLaren. You may not know this, actually, Mundanara, about me. So I'm actually very Scottish. Scots married Scots until Dad brought Mum home to a little one-house town.
Hold a minute.
In South Australia.
Hold a minute. So your Scottish father.
My Scottish father.
Met a black woman.
Yes.
And brought him home to his Scottish family.
Yeah.
And tell me more. I'm loving this.
The plot thickens, right? So old mate was the eldest of his family, and they were citrus dairy farming kind of people, right? So either had cattle or sheep or grow citrus or whatever. But he didn't. So grandmother's side was citrus and grandfather's side was dairy. So he grew up in like a dairy and property and whatnot, but he didn't want to take over the farm. No, Dad was a poet and a lover. So he decided to go join the Navy. But no good. He was in Sydney and they're at Bondi, and he ran into my mother, and absolute stunner, and fell head over heels for it, ended up jumping ship.
I cut it out.
Stop it. Yeah. But wait for it, right? He goes down the street for a packet of cigarettes, gets caught by old mate, gets locked up in Holdsworthy for 3 months, and then turns back up at Mum's house 3 months later, and she's like, where the hell have you been?
And he basically got arrested for jumping ship.
Yeah, you get arrested for, you can't go jumping ship. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He fell in love with this black one, and that's it. I want to run away and marry this woman, but no good, got caught, got locked up. And that was, yeah, and I was born out of all that. So,
okay. Wow. So this other side of you, the Scottish side.
Yeah.
You said McLaren. Is that the last name, the family name?
Yeah. So I was born in McLaren. So Johnson's actually my married name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, there you go, sis. I did not know that, I must say.
Yeah. So pretty much all of my arts background, because I started as a dancer and an artist and a weaver, all that started as a McLaren. And then before I started speaking in colour in my teaching career, I was then married. So I've kind of got the two lives there, which is really interesting. Yeah.
So, sis, I'm now going back to when I first met you.
Yeah.
And we both remember it because it was Supply Nation Connect Conference, which has been cancelled. I was so looking forward to it, and catching up and, being able to connect with all those different, Indigenous businesses that, come to Sydney for those couple of days every year is probably the highlight of my year when it comes to, other than NAIDOC week, of course, right? Mm-hmm. So I met you at Connect Conference at the trade show, the Indigenous Business Trade Show, a couple of years back. And I remember coming up to you, and there's another Koori woman there with you. And I said, so what do you do? And you basically said, I deliver training, I do this, I work with schools, I'm a qualified teacher. and I also love weaving. And I was like, oh, my goodness, I'm actually looking for other deadly black businesses across the country that can support me in the work that I do with Black Card. So straight away, you know, me and you, we connected, right?
Absolutely.
And then within a year we had a yarn, and next minute, you know, we were catching up in Sydney and you started delivering training together. I remember coming to Newcastle and, you know, participating in one of your workshops. So what's the name of your business?
Speaking in Colour.
Speaking in Colour.
And our logo is actually, it looks like the yin and yang, so it's like quotation marks. But when you look at it closely, the dot down the bottom is actually Tasmania. So our logo is the shape of Australia. So saying, you know. Sis,
this is another thing I did not even know.
Oh, yeah,
you never told me this. But see, this is what I love, that every time we catch up, you know, we yarn about everything and anything, sis, from family to community to business to just being a woman and what it's like to be running a business.
I think if I can, sorry, I don't mean to hijack the conversation, but
sis, this is all about you.
But I think that is the most important thing for me in business and community, because I was raised in community doing community consult work, and the only reason why I can do it is because I've actually sat under my mum and my nan and learnt from them. And my point with that is, when I meet with other people who have been raised in community, who do business in that community way, we connect automatically because we know we're same. And the thing that I love about our times together, we've cried together, we have laughed together, we connect over business, but we feel safe to be able to collaborate and know that we have the same truth and the same values. I don't think I've ever signed, actually I haven't, I've never signed a contract with you about IP or any of this business, because you know I've got your back, because you know I just wouldn't dog you, because when we've talked about crying about our little sisters, we've talked about husbands, we've talked about cousins, we've talked about our community that we really want to build capacity in because we think they'll be great to work in our business, not because we just want to expand our business, but because our business is about building capacity in our community and running cultural economic enterprise so that our community can flourish regardless of what's happening in economics and regardless of funding. And it's people like you and I who connect and have these conversations, and it's so important. People say to me all the time, don't you get worried about people stealing your stuff? Honestly, that many people have. But there's always people sitting in the cheap seats having a nitpick and carrying on. The biggest ones that lean into collaboration and lean into relationship, that's where it's at. I was actually talking to another sister girl. We met yesterday online with Zoom. I don't know if I told you, but I'm going to start the Mara program.
Oh, my, didn't I? Well, it's not that I told you about it, but I said to you one day, sis, have you considered this program? And you'd heard about it, and you even said, oh, you know what, I think I'll put an application in for it.
Well, I did.
So you've been selected?
I've accepted. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I know, but let me not lose track of thought, because this is another perfect example of how you and I connected, right? So yesterday I was on the the Zoom with the Murra, when sister girl Bonnie from Tamworth area, she runs another similar business. When she did her intro, but even the way that she held herself, I just said to her when I did my intro, and sister girl Bonnie, I really want to connect with you. Well, we were on the phone today for an hour and a half. We've already come up with 2 or 3 ways that we can collaborate and support each other to help each other's businesses grow.
How deadly is that? And, you know, you've hit it on the head, sis. How can we support each other, and how can we help each other's businesses grow?
Yes.
Without feeling like a threat to somebody or feeling that we're competing with you. And when I talk, you know, you went back to me not even sending you a contract to sign or a non-disclosure. And sis, to me, you know what, we paid a lot of money for lawyers to develop all of those things. But for me, it's about how do we operate on Aboriginal terms of reference? How do we utilise knowledge from this land that has kind of gotten us to where we are today when you think about Aboriginal people and Aboriginal culture and Aboriginal society, you know, operating and not just surviving but thriving over tens of thousands of years. We've got the recipe for success, and it wasn't competition. It was not based on competition. So how do we engage with each other in today's world, especially in the business sector, and not see each other as a threat? Because the moment we start seeing each other as a threat, we've been drawn over into white terms of reference.
That's exactly right.
And for listeners listening now to this podcast, the difference is if we're operating as Aboriginal people, you know, I'm an Aboriginal woman and I operate on Aboriginal terms of reference. The moment that I am drawn over into white terms of reference could be when I have the CEO hat on of Black Card and I start conducting myself as a CEO, which is someone at the top of the ladder, right? This is an example. If I start treating people, say my employees, lesser than me, then that's me being drawn over into white terms of reference. Because in the Murri world, in the Aboriginal world, we have a lateral governance structure. Male and female complement each other. One could never dominate the other. There's no caste system, no class system. So as soon as you put yourself above people, especially as an Aboriginal person, then for me, you're being drawn over into white terms of reference, but it doesn't make you any less of an Aboriginal person. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, you know, if you've grown up in a very strong Aboriginal family and community and been raised by some really deadly people, such as my elders, then you're conscious of these things. You're aware of these things. And for a lot of our mob, you know, you talked about your nan's little sister, Annie Lorraine Peters, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And my nan, those two women being in the girls' home together. Was it Bomaderry or Cootamundra? Probably both.
Yeah, well, both, eh? Yeah, because Nan was 14 when she went in, but the two youngest, Auntie Lorraine, Auntie Jude, went to Bomaderry. They were only babies.
Yeah. And that's what happened. They went to Bomaderry first and then they got sent to Coota for their domestic training. So what I'm saying is a lot of our people were taken from their families, from their communities, from their culture.
Yeah.
And they were raised in these institutions and raised by missionaries and treated pretty badly as well. So in terms of us, you know, as blackfellas today, how can we consolidate our terms of reference? What does that mean when I say I operate on Aboriginal terms of reference? And the moment that I get drawn over, especially if I'm being challenged about, you know, Aboriginal culture or Aboriginal, you know, philosophy or whatever, politics, if I've been challenged, the moment that I feel that I've been drawn over, it's like the ground underneath my feet feels like quicksand and I start to lose my confidence. And that's when I go, hold a minute, you know, I don't need to be drawn over into white terms of reference. I know who I am. I know my culture. And that's where I feel more confident is when I'm operating on my terms of reference. So going back to that non-competitive society, which is, you know, the Aboriginal world, how do we bring our mob along with us on this journey and how can we then inspire others to do things the way that we've been doing because we're getting better outcomes, sis?
Oh, there's a lot there that we can yarn about. The first of all, I just want to point out, you know, how many times have you been challenged? And I say that with a smile because, you know, you're never going to be able to please everybody. And in the space that we're in, when sometimes we have to, like I work a lot with educators and corporates myself, and sometimes I just look at them and smile, like to saying, bless you, there's a different way of doing things. But we have to do it in a way where, you know, honey, you get more bees with honey, right, rather than vinegar. So sometimes it is a softly. But for me, when I'm thinking or reacting or you know, trying to work out how to navigate a particular way, I always think about it being a public decision. Like, am I holding my values? Am I standing in my truth if I say or do a particular thing? Would I be proud of making that decision in front of my babies and my old people? That's what I think of. I've always got to think of the bigger picture because don't get me wrong, there's many a time when I look at someone and I give them that eyebrow and I want to let rip, but I know that it's not the right time nor place.
Of course, and it is, sis, you know, when you talk about, you know, not just your babies that you think about, but your old people. And and our ancestors. Like, we think about so much. Like, there's a lot of pressure on us sometimes. And
I don't represent myself.
No.
I am that Aboriginal girl at the front of the room when I'm conducting training. And it's the same with you. And every single day, and I know that we've had this conversation before, because some days you walk away and you are so emotionally depleted, because people like you, Mundanara, we read the room. We anticipate the body language, and we pivot our pitch because we know that we have 3 hours or we have 5 hours. And if we miss the mark and we don't help these people take that next step in their journey, whatever their journey may be, they might be at the beginning of their journey, they might be at the middle of their journey. And not saying that we're any experts, because we've had this conversation, absolutely. I'm a young woman off country. I'm not an expert on all things Aboriginal. And I'm quite okay with saying, I don't know about that, or I know a really great resource, a person or a book or a podcast series where, you know, you can get more richness out of it. But as a researcher, because I'm trying to finish my PhD and I'm trying to run a business, I'm trying to be a mum and all this stuff. Like we do, we think we can have the slice of cake and the rest of it too.
And you do a good job at that, my sister, let me tell you now. You know, you still got that smile, that laugh, and what you've been going through and what we're dealing with at the moment. You're still, to me, sound in really good spirit. So that's deadly.
Oh, thank you. That was because you didn't see me last weekend when I was eating that big block of chocolate. But anyway, nonetheless, this is what happens is when people, kind of back to the connection thing with you and I always love chatting with you because you get me in all aspects of my life. But sometimes people in my world today who I'm physically around a lot don't get it. And sometimes my only release is a block of chocolate to self-medicate, you know. But the biggest thing, I got a little bit offended this week, and I just want to explain a little bit because it might explain my headspace. Someone said to me, oh, sis, this will make you feel better. I ran into a friend of mine today. He's a licensee of this big pub, and he lost $500,000 this week and had to lay off 58 staff out of his 60 staff.
Wow.
And I got offended because I thought to myself, well, we can't compare because it's completely different. But part of me got a little bit wild because I'm like, hang on, he's a licensee of a pub. I mean, I get it. I get it that that's like really, really tricky and people are just losing businesses left, right and centre. But for me, when I sent my email and spoke to all of my contractors and casuals in the team, I was calling them family because that's who they are. And I know that in our industry, these people don't have, in some cases, don't have qualifications or other alternative jobs that they can go to because the sort of roles they do in Speaking Colour as cultural facilitators, it's very rare to find a job like that. And secondly, we love each other like family because we are on the coalface each and every day. And thirdly, I started this business out of the boot of my car on the smell of an oily rag and actually left my full-time teaching position and did take a wage for 3 years to get this business started. Now, that's the cold, hard facts of business. So when people say, oh, don't worry about it, you know, it should come back, it's gut-wrenching when you just see your business that you've worked so hard for. But the other thing is the whole reason why I went into business, I just sat in my teaching job and I would have been earning exactly what I'm earning now, but I wouldn't have had the 3 years of not earning it. And I would have been, you know, I would have been busy. I probably would be sick at the moment with all the corona stuff going on. But I would have been comfortable. But you and I, people like you and I, we think to ourselves, you know, we're only where we are because we do stand on the shoulders of giants. So what can we do? What is our bit that we can do that can take us, that can progress us a little bit further forward? And for me, I've sold my life out in education. If I can help educators feel a little bit more confident and equipped to deliver perspectives in their classroom, brilliant. If we can bring people, collaborators together in the community like we are right now, we're writing language books at the moment. I've written this gorgeous little bush story about the little bush critters that come alive at night. We've got Katang language in there, and it's got a little craft section at the back. And babe, when I publish it, I'll send you one for the babies. I love it.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's really beautiful. And then we write teacher resources that go with it to tell the teachers, ask this question at this point, ask that question, do this activity. You want to put out authentic Aboriginal perspectives in your classroom, this is how you do it, you know. And then I remember one of my friends who's in the public service said to me, Cherie, you know, for years you've been teaching in the high school setting, why don't you do teaching in the corporate setting? If you can teach naughty kids in the school, you can teach corporates. So now we've been doing – sorry, any corporates.
They're not all naughty, are they?
They're not. No. But it's a really great way, I think, of being able to pivot training and make it very visual and kinetic, because people are looking for narrative. People are wanting to understand. They're not wanting to be sledgehammered. They're not wanting to be they're wanting, if you can present facts, you can present a way that people can be agents for change, that is how we bring across solutions. That's how we make a difference. And that's why when I see a lot of Indigenous businesses around me crumbling, I'm so sad, because we were finally, and we will come back, we've been finally realising that the secret to all of this is economic enterprise that is community run, that is run by, you know, community coming together. We've got so much skill, so much talent in our community, and it's all about honing those skills and bringing those people together, collaborating, you know, building capacity where we can. Because how many times have we had an amazing elder in our community and next minute they pass away?
Yeah.
And the younger people behind them just have not developed those skills.
Yeah.
You know, and we have this great big gaping hole in our community, you know. We need more businesses up. We need more collaborations. Like I said to Sissy today, I'm like, we're about to go online with our training to these educators. You've already got some. Can we engage you to use some of your content over here? Because there's no use us reinventing the wheel. She said, yeah, of course, love to.
And that was great. And that was my next question, sis. Like,
yeah.
Right now you're basically having to, I guess, adapt your business model to be able to now just stay afloat, to keep food on the table, to keep people in jobs. So what are some of the things that you're doing to make sure that your business, you know, comes out the other end of this?
Okay, honestly, practically, I'm sleeping. I'm making sure that I'm going to bed. I'm making sure that I'm turning off the phone and the television, and sometimes going to bed when the kids go to bed. That's the first thing. If I don't have my mind right, nothing will operate. Exactly. So that's the first thing I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
I've been trying to eat clean, and I've been trying to take my probiotics and all those things, and I've been getting up before the kids get up and going for a run. With their dad for a couple of hours the other day, so I went bushwalking and took photos. I just needed to get in nature. I needed to connect with country. So that's the first thing. The second thing I put up on my wall was how to turn downtime into uptime. It is downtime. It's just what it is. But how do we turn it into uptime? How can we go, all right, this is an opportunity. Now, it may not be the chapter that we thought it was going to be, but it is. So what can we do? I looked at I've had a couple of mad moments where I've gone, well, we hated that part of the business anyway, let's just cut that. Yeah. So time to sit back and reflect and analyse. Yeah. I did a big cost analysis. Okay, let's look at, you know, in our monthly account, what goes, like look at our budget, what goes out. Does it need to go out? What can we freeze? Like I said, I've had to just make a really harsh call and just say to all the casuals and contractors, sorry, but we don't have any work. However, we can offer you this, which is a supply chain, which is providing stock for, we have education kits. So that's in place. I've spoken to all of my girls and people that work in the office and just said, sorry, there's no more overtime. We're just doing a contract. And then to two of the girls, I just had to be really honest and say, look, your hours and your contract is linked directly to the contract, the deliverables. If we are unable to deliver, then we are unable to keep you on. I'm really sorry. There will be work at the end. I will promise you that, because I'm making the assurances now that we have to keep the business afloat. And that's the most important thing. Be wise. Be wise, be wise, be wise. Look, at your cash is king. Limit what's going out. and look at ways to cost save so that at the end of the day, your door's still open.
Oh, my God. Sis, listen, to me, that bit of advice, I was going to actually, wrap up this podcast with some, what's a message or what's some words of wisdom or some advice out there. And it was like you took the words out of my mouth and started giving us some practical tips and some advice on not just Indigenous businesses, but people in business, what they can practically do right now. So I know I've had you for longer than the 20 minutes that you promised me.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all good. That's all good. I just wanted to say that you're an absolute inspiration, my sister, and always, always a pleasure catching up with you and having a yarn. We don't do it enough, but you know what? We will be in touch a lot more now that you and I have kind of got our feet on the ground. Yep. So I'm so pleased to hear your voice and to know that you're still smiling, still the same old Cherie. But yes, I just want to say thank you so much for giving up some of your time to be on the Black Magic Woman podcast.
Love this.
Thank you so much and have a wonderful afternoon, my sister, and we'll talk soon.
You too. Will do. All right.
See you.
Talk to you soon.
And that was Cherie Johnson, Managing Director and founder of Speaking in Colour, an organisation that embeds Indigenous knowledges and perspectives into the curriculum, as Cherie is a qualified teacher and also a master weaver that delivers so many different workshops across the Hunter in Aboriginal culture, history, and also with the arts and crafts. On the next episode, I'll be speaking with Joe Hedger, a proud Bundjalung man from northern New South Wales, also leader of the Indigenous sector practice at EY. We talk about all things, family, culture, COVID-19, and much more. You don't want to miss that episode. Until next time, take care.